In this episode, we will learn about adopting generative AI at work.
And we will explore how this will change leadership, organization, and process. Welcome to episode 25 of the Leading Complexity podcast. This is where we explore the art of leading organizations in a hyper-competitive, complex landscape. We will do this with some of the world's foremost thinkers within leadership. My name is Tomas Björkholm, and with me I have Göthe.
In this episode, we will talk about generative AI, and we will do this together with our colleague Henrik Kniberg.
Henrik is just about to release his book Generative AI in a nutshell. And this is the same name as his 1-year-old video about generative AI. And it has even more than 2.7 million views so far.
Already before November 2022 and the launch of ChatGPT 3.5, the development of successful products and services was a complex task. But now, with the speed of AI and the increasing adoption, the complexity is increasing.
There are numerous complex challenges around AI. Even the implementation of generative AI is a complex task. So we are asking ourselves, how will leadership, organization, and process change because of generative AI?
Let's involve Henrik in our chat. How do you see that generative AI will affect leadership and maybe leadership decision making in particular?
I think it's going to affect it radically, but it's hard to say exactly how. I think it's similar to when the internet came. It kind of changed everything, but at the time, no one knew exactly how. Just that we need to understand what this thing is. I think we're in a similar kind of situation.
Yes. When I've been teaching for years, I've been saying that everything that is kind of repetitive, we can automate with programming and code, etc. And we should use the human capabilities for complex things and use
Exactly.
collaboration, perspectives, things like this. But is that true now that we have generative AI? Will that kind of replace or will it enhance human collaboration?
I think that's a really good angle. I think of it kind of like a spectrum from fully automatable with code to fully human. And in the past, it's really been like if you can't describe it exactly, then it can't be automated. So, but now that scale has moved a little bit. So lots of work that previously could not be automated because it required some intelligence and some creativity can now be automated. But of course, not everything. So it's something. I think it's just that a lot more stuff can be automated than before, but obviously not everything.
So you can mute this as scale. What are
Yeah.
some of the biggest challenges organizations facing when they want to introduce generative AI into their operations?
I think one big challenge is that this technology is so new and so strange. We've never had anything like it in the past, so it's hard to make a strategy around it. So we typically want to jump to like finding the value immediately for something. But here I think you need some humility to realize that we just need to give people a lot of time and resources to experiment with the technology before you're going to find the kind of golden use cases.
Yeah. Have you thought of some kind of implications of introducing generative AI that is not really thought of yet?
Yeah, I think the kind of subtle thing that you realize after a while is that generative AI makes things less predictable but more intelligent. And
Ah,
that's a trade-off. When you write code is stupid. It doesn't think for itself. It does exactly what you said. When you talk to a generative AI model, there's something similar to thinking or creativity going on, which means they can do a lot cooler and more interesting things. But by definition, just like a human, we are fundamentally kind of unpredictable because
mm.
we think. So that's a bit of a trade-off that you need to kind of navigate.
So more unpredictable, but more kind of intelligent.
Kind of, but then there's the nice tricks you can do, like using large language models to generate code, because then the generation itself is unpredictable. But once you have the code, you can look at it,
Ah,
and
yeah.
executing the code is predictable. So there's all kinds of tricks you can use to kind of get the both best of both worlds.
So now that you've kind of immersed yourself in generative AI, what has surprised you the most during this research?
I think what surprised me the most is just the whole thing. I never imagined that a computer could be creative or write code or help like plan a strategy workshop or all these kind of things that I really didn't think computers could do. So I get surprised pretty much every day. But maybe the biggest thing is just what an incredible productivity increase you can see when you really start understanding how to use the technology. And that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, you mentioned a bit of that. How much have you seen for yourself when you've been coding or creating stuff?
Well, it's hard to measure exactly, but if I were to estimate, especially when it comes to coding, then it's around 10 times more productive, at least I would say, because typically it's something that would take days would now take hours, and
Wow.
things that would take hours would now take minutes. So it's really quite remarkable, but only if you really use the best tools out there and really learn prompt engineering.
Yeah. So basically, any team should have an AI on their team.
Yeah, I think teams that don't do that will basically not be, nobody's going to want to pay for them. It
No.
would be similar. It would be similar to having a team that refuses to use the internet. It's like, sure, but no one's going to pay because you're just too ineffective.
Yeah, or a typewriter instead of a computer.
Yeah, like it would look kind of cool, but I'm not sure someone wouldn't want to pay for that.
Okay, Henrik talked about automation, and typically for years I've been saying that it's good to automate, to have computers, programmers do what can be repeated, that's repetitive, and then we could automate that and use our collective intelligence and human capacities for more complex tasks. But nowadays, the AI is getting better and better and even starting to handling complex tasks. So,
Exactly. It's like the scale is moving, I would say. So together with generative AI, now we can do a lot of more of those things that earlier we needed to have a human person to deal with. So everything is changing, and we can see the scale coming from simple tasks that we can program. We have those little less predictable where we can have generative AI dealing with. Then we have little less predictable where we need to have a human person also involved. But still, there are those very much not predictable at all things that we need to have just a human.
yeah, and I like what Henrik mentioned, and I hadn't really thought about it before, but the more advanced the generative AI becomes, it becomes more intelligent and it becomes more like humans. And as you know, humans are complex and unpredictable. So the better the AI, kind of the more unpredictable as well. So that's kind of a trade-off. When you, for example, examine a piece of software code, you can kind of determine more exactly what the outcome be. But when you move toward this kind of human-like intelligence, then yeah, the results are more unpredictable and complex in its nature.
Yeah, and for me personally, I'm just to learn more about what you can do with generative AI. I am programming a chatbot. Not spending much time on it. It's quite amazing how much you can do in just one day. But it's also interesting how tricky it is because you feel you have a good grip of it and you're happy with the result, and then you try something else and suddenly it doesn't really give the answer that you want, and you have to trim it, and then you ask the same thing again, but you get another answer which you need to take care of. So it's kind of tricky to deal with this more human computers or programming.
Yeah, so I think I mean the AI is trained on things that are known, so it's not really creating anything yet. But as it gets better and better, I think it will be kind of cross-fertilize ideas from different areas, different domains, and we will, I think, experience it as creativity and creative things coming out.
Yeah. So, what about productivity? Henrik is mentioning 10 times more productivity.
I really like the comment that he made that a team that will not use AI or generative AI in the future could be similar to a team that today would refuse to use internet, it would be kind of odd or cool that, yeah, we're not using internet, but who would pay for such an ineffective team?
Yeah, but still 10 times more productive. I'm not sure if I really agree with that. Totally for creating prototypes. But my experience so far, again, working with this chatbot, is you still need to be a good programmer, first of all. And secondly, what I can see is that, especially I'm using ChatGPT, it's starting to forget things after some time. So you can't really just take the code it suggests and put it in your code. So I would say definitely much faster, especially on things I have no clue about. I can just ask for it. There's a lot of things. I mean, suddenly I'm sitting programming Node.js, which I have no clue about. That would probably normally take me maybe a month or something. So it's like I would say 40 times quicker. The same thing. I'm just saying that this needs to be safe, and then it's secure. Then it's generating ideas of what that could mean and how I can change the code to make it that will probably take much longer. But for more simple things that I know about, maybe the difference is not that big. So a really good programmer working with their favorite code or language, then I would say maybe not really 10 times. But for me, being new in some of those languages, I think it's even more than 10 times.
Yeah, I'm thinking I did some easy, simple scripts, but it was a long time since I did programming, so I'd forgotten a lot about it. But probably I would be stuck totally without the help. So that would be kind of an infinite increase in productivity. So yeah, but I wonder also about in the team constellation. So a team using AI. I mean, if you have five, let's say five kind of experts giving different perspectives, and then you include a sixth kind of super intelligent AI that can give perspectives from any kind of domain and different areas. Maybe 10 times is not unrealistic. So yeah, I'm curious if any listeners have any data about this as well. So please share it.
Yes. So what about leadership?
Yeah, I asked Henrik about the implications of leadership and particularly decision making, and yeah, we cannot know already. He says like it's as when internet was new, it's a huge shift, but beforehand you couldn't really tell how it would be used. So I think it goes back to that we are so early. We have to kind of explore and test and see how it make leadership affected. But probably decision making support is one of the key things that will be a big shift.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that he see a parallel to the introduction of internet. I was in the middle of it, late 1990, and I had my first website 1993, and seen the development of that from those gray backgrounds and all that. And I remember like 96, 97, there were like, wow, this is really cool. Um, but we really didn't know what to use it for. So we experimented. We did a lot of different things. I had ideas. I had ideas of intranet long before it became the norm for all companies. And I think we're kind of in the same situation now with generative AI. Everyone thinks it's a really cool thing, but at the end, what are we going to use it for? And my feeling is that even though we have a lot of ideas what we can do, if we look back, let's say from 10 years back to now, probably we will be totally off with a lot of things.
Yeah.
I didn't foresee social media, for instance, from internet, and today we can't live without it.
One thing that has changed with the internet, then kind of knowledge and information became commonplace everybody could have access to the same information knowledge in a company. So kind of that micromanagement or telling people what to do wasn't really necessary anymore. And I suppose with AI that will be kind of taken much further even. So would you even kind of need managers to kind of prioritize and make decisions, etc., now that kind of also intelligence is kind of a commonplace or spread out to everyone?
This is really interesting. I mean, internet made knowledge very cheap because you could easily look it up on the internet, but suddenly it gets even cheaper. More advanced things, you can just get it, you get it summarized. It's very simply presented, so it's easy to learn. You can even ask, for instance, manuals. I just heard a story about a person who created a so-called GPT with manuals from the house, and you can just ask what is happening right now, how do I turn the light on, and so on. So yes, when information gets cheaper, then we don't need the head of the managers anymore, because the idea of having a manager is that having someone have better knowledge than you. This comes from 100 years ago when some were educated, they become the managers, and some were not educated and they become the workers. But now this limit between them, the border between them, they are getting more and more fuzzy, and that means that maybe we need to look at the organization in a different way.
Yeah, so with the internet, kind of information was kind of spread to everyone. Now intelligence is spread. So yeah, I think this change will accelerate.
Yeah, and why not create your own AI with decisions? So actually, you don't need to ask a person. You can just ask your large language model your questions. So you build it yourself. So what about organization?
Yeah, so I recently heard an interview with the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, and he talked about that for managers, they will start also managing AI agents. So it's not only people, but there will be more and more AI agents. So you need to kind of onboard them, train them, and get them going, and then kind of manage them. So basically, it's a bit like traditional HR. And his prediction was that if you're a IT department, you will be the new kind of HR for AI agents as well.
Yeah, that could be interesting yearly appraisals. I predict that we will see a new type of teams, much more cross-functional than the ones we have today. Because when knowledge becomes much cheaper, we will see full-stack developers much more commonly than today. So you only need to have one with IT knowledge, which leaves room in your team for business knowledge, which a lot of teams already have, but that will be even more common in the future. But that also gives room for, let's say, one person from finance, someone from legal, security. So they will move into the team. So you can take care of all those different ways of looking at what you're doing. And they will be in a team, and they will be working on very short time horizons, because everything will go so much quicker. So we can totally forget all those kinds of quarterly planning horizons. We will more talk about daily plannings, I think.
Yeah, maybe then we talked about the 10x productivity in the beginning. So maybe here is where we get this 10x, because one limitation today is if you want to speed up things, you need to have a cross-functional team covering many more disciplines and perspectives. But that often ends up in still quite a big team. And first of all, it takes a lot of capacity, but there will still be a lot of communication, coordination, collaboration in those big teams. So if you with AI can drastically reduce the team size, I think that will also have a huge impact on productivity and lead times.
Definitely. So we can have teams with one mission, and they don't need to ask anyone else, because everyone having some sort of stake in the work, they will be sitting in the team and really teaming.
Maybe you will have specialized AI agents as well that you could maybe call for a more security or risk or legal deep expert before you actually have to get the human involved at all.
Could be that you have one legal expert who is just there to train the legal agents, AI agents. That could also be interesting.
Yeah, the onboarding and training we talked about.
Yeah, definitely. More into the future, I would say that I believe, and this is something we have seen just last week here, that the DeepSeek, the Chinese version, the large language model, the LLM, and they built it much, much cheaper than OpenAI when they built ChatGPT. And I'm thinking if this becomes even cheaper, then we will see that maybe EU will have their own LLM. So in Europe, we don't need to rely on Chinese or American capacity and knowledge. And then the next step is that Sweden, for instance, have their own, and the next step after that will probably that even companies will have their own, just to make sure that they're not sharing information with someone else.
Yeah, so it's interesting. The LLMs is getting cheaper so much faster than expected. So it's getting soon to be a commodity, I think. So yeah, also comment from the Nvidia CEO there again that it used to be the LLMs that was the main focus, the main bottleneck. Now it's everything about AI agents, and soon it will be also about robotics and real world AI. So the progress is it's going so fast. It's amazing. Talking about building your own LLMs, how do you get started with AI?
Well, Henrik was talking about that we need to give people a lot of time and resources to experiment. I think that is very important. I also would like to add a lot of other things, just to make sure that we have kind of the foundation for good collaboration within the company. That is something we can call like a strategy for AI implementation. And well, what would you say we need to have in our strategy?
Okay, first of all, one thing that's needed is setting a direction. What do we want to create with AI and why? Where are we going and how do we see that we can apply this? And what could be some objectives on the way moving there?
Then we need to have some constraints, like making sure that we know what we can do according to legal issues, security, and ethical.
Next, we also need to look at our current capabilities. Do we need education, training? How do we work today? How do we collaborate around this? Sharing information, knowledge, etc.
Yeah, because at the end, we need to make sure that every minute we spend on experimentation will actually give us something back. So it's important that people are collaborating, we are sharing the knowledge we have, so we are speeding up the learning in the organization.
Yeah, so I think we can summarize that you need to create kind of a playing field where you can do some kind of safe to fail experiments, test out, try things without kind of taking unnecessary big risks.
If you're interested in learning more about generative AI, we suggest that you look into Henrik's new book about the topic and also the video he has produced. We have also made a video about AI strategy, which we will link to in the show notes.
Let's wrap up for today. We're curious about your reflections and comments, so please share those and also share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. And check out the other episodes at leadingcomplexity.com/podcast.
Thank you for listening.